I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about psychology and true crime. And today's case is Benjamin Elliott. He was the defendant in this case. They had the complete trial. They actually just did sentencing today, and we will watch some of the sentencing. Welcome, Afton. Welcome to everybody that is watching. I saw this case because there was expert testimony about sleepwalking. Elliot claimed that when he was 17 years old, this happened back in 2021, that he uh, stabbed his sister in her sleep, his twin sister. And this was on September 29th of 2021, and he claimed that he was dreaming, and um and he realized what he was doing, and he called 911. He tried to apply pressure to the wound, and she did ended up passing from her injuries. The state seemed to think that it was intentional, that he wasn't sleepwalking, that he had been using his phone around the like prior to this, and it wasn't like he had went to sleep, no activity on his phone, and then there's this incident, and then there's activity on his phone. So this is another case where phone digital evidence ended up coming in, and but I did want to watch parts of the expert that talked about the sleep, um, the sleepwalking, because it this was just so much. So let me give a little bit more history. Benjamin Elliott was 17 years old when he unalived his sister, Megan Elliott, in her bed in the early morning hours of September 29th of 2021. He was facing up to 99 years in prison, and records indicated that he told police that he woke up from a dream to find himself standing over his sister, and that he took the knife out of her neck and called 911. And when the family and when everybody arrived, this was around 4 a.m. He was performing CPR on his sister. The knife is described as a survival knife that belonged to his father, which breaks my heart for this family. And he had been out on bond since the incident. And so, all right, let me go on ahead and share my screen so that we can talk about this a little bit more. I had never, there might have been one other case. It's been a while since I've heard somebody try to claim that they were sleepwalking. So, this is a sleep expert that gave testimony for the defense. And so, let's play some of his testimony.
I think we had just finished talking about proximity.
Correct.
So number 5 is no attempt to cover up. So what is your opinion about this case and whether or not Benjamin tried to cover up what had happened?
He definitely did not try to cover up. I heard the 911 phone call, and he admitted to this right away, recognizing that he had done this.
At any time did he tell you how many times he had stabbed his sister?
We didn't really go into discussion of how many times. What he said is he recalled stabbing and coming out of this dream, realizing he's stabbing and thinking maybe it's his sister, and he like realize that he's just stabbed his sister. It was a single stabbing that he recalled. But yet the evidence showed there were 2 thrusts of the knife, and he doesn't recall. His characterization was always a single thrust as he's coming out of this dream. And so he's amnestic to getting out of the bed, grabbing the knife, mobilizing over to by his sister, and then the first thrust. It's not part of his recollection.
So when you're in stage 3 sleep, slow wave sleep, are you dreaming?
As I pointed out earlier, there is some dream kind of content that's vague.
And they were trying to claim that he has a sleepwalking disorder. And the things that I've heard of, so I've heard there, even in the DSM-5, there are different sleep disorders. Um, Insomnia or is one of them. I think narcolepsy might be. I know either a neurologist or I'm not exactly sure because narcolepsy is falling asleep in the middle of the day. Insomnia can also be a symptom of depression or anxiety. Sometimes people with autism and ADHD can struggle with insomnia. That's just difficulty falling asleep. There are some people that don't have restful sleep. So when they do sleep, they don't have periods of time where they're getting that deeper, restful sleep. They're very light sleepers and they might still wake up feeling exhausted after getting a lot of sleep. And these things are often diagnosed through a sleep study. And nowadays, sometimes you can do home based sleep studies. When you do a sleep study at a facility, they're normally monitoring you and they're coming in at different periods of time because you're hooked up to a whole bunch of sensors and they check on everything. Nightmares can be something that they take a look at. Night terrors is something that can be diagnosed in childhood, and that's usually when children might wake up screaming, or not even wake up in the middle of the night. They start screaming, and you wake them up, and they have no idea. Like they don't remember the nightmare, but it's just called a night terror. And then people can also have nightmares, and that's where in those dream states, in that REM sleep, they are remembering their dreams. And so I sometimes can talk in my sleep. So if I'm in a deep state of sleep and if somebody asks me a question, this is something that runs on my mom's side of the family. It's my understanding that my grandfather used to do this. My mom could do it and I and I do it as well, that I can wake up, look at the person, have a whole conversation, go back to sleep and have no memory of that conversation at all. Some people can move in their sleep. Restless leg syndrome is something that some people can have. That goes along with sleep. Um, and so there is a type of therapy, cognitive behavior therapy for insomnia, CBTI, and I believe it's a free app because I want to say it was developed for veterans. So CBTI Coach, I believe, is one of the free ones. I hope that one's free. That's one of the ones I have here on my phone. Um, so that's a free app that people can use if they are looking at sleep stuff. So this is what the defense put forward. I did see a comment earlier because the jury did end up convicting Benjamin, and I think the jury asked the judge to do a lighter sentence. That yes, they thought he did it, but um, it seemed like the jury did believe that there might have been something else going on, but yes, and he was sentenced to 15 years because he was facing up to 99 years. The state asked for 40 years. The defense asked for 5, and the judge ended up giving him 15 years. All right. So I'm going to play a little bit more of the sleep expert, and then we are going to chat a little bit more.
When someone's asked to describe what they recall, it's not vivid description like in a REM sleep. So there is some degree of dreaming, yes.
Number 6 is amnesia, and that's what we were just talking about. Do you have anything else to add to what you just said about amnesia or dreams?
Well, there's usually some level of amnesia. And usually it's complete or partial. So what's partial? Amnesia of the actual event. So you can have pockets of memory that can be there from the event. That's not exclusionary. So usually there will be no memory, but there can be some memory part of the event.
If you know, what does a person do when they realize something's happened, but they have no memory of it?
Objection would call for speculation.
That was a good objection. Um, and sometimes people can eat in their sleep. Some people can. I have never heard of somebody getting doing something like this in their sleep. So yes, this is a expert for the defense because the defense was trying to say that he has a sleep disorder and that he had no intention of doing this. This was he woke up from it in his sleep, almost that it was an accident. That was what the defense was trying to say. And the jury convicted him. And so they did not believe that.
He's an expert in neurology and sleep studies and sleep science, and I think he's qualified to answer that question.
So rule, yeah.
So I want to make sure I understand the question. You said, what would be a normal response when someone has done a violent act without knowing that they did this and recognizing that they just did this?
Let me ask it differently.
Okay.
What is confabulation?
Confabulation is when you make up events to cover up, or someone's like malingering or just they're trying to fake or get out of doing something.
Can confabulation be you trying to reconcile the situation you find yourself in with not remembering what happened?
Yeah, so we use medically confabulation typically like with alcoholics that can't remember, their memory goes bad, and so they'll fake and they'll make up things when you ask them questions, and they'll fill in the gaps by just making up things when they
Sarah Boone.
asked.
So you're making up things based on what you find when you come to?
Yeah, it would fit.
Possibly?
Yes.
I'll also just share that they had another expert that talked about how he didn't show signs of psychopathy, so that he didn't have antisocial features, rule breaking, all of those things. Welcome to everyone in the chat and that are watching. Great question, B Michigan. Were there any negative feelings between the twins? And I do not believe, because it wasn't like they got into a big argument. It wasn't like that anybody was aware of. The prosecution believed that he used a pillow to silence her scream. So the prosecution, I think, felt that this was more malicious than everybody else did. But yes. And so Buttercup, Nightbot doesn't like more than 3 emojis. Nightbot got testy. I'm sorry, Buttercup. I'm sorry. Blame Nightbot, not me. So we are going to switch over to sentencing, and we are going to listen to the family because it sounds like his parents, it sounds like there was some support for him, but let's go on ahead and listen to this. And I have the full links with no interruptions down in the description.
We're going back to Houston, Texas, because we're watching the sentencing hearing for Benjamin Elliott. On Monday, he was convicted of murder in connection to the stabbing death of his twin sister, Megan. Throughout the trial, he maintained his innocence, said he was sleepwalking. Well, now a judge is going to decide his penalty, 5 to 99 years. That's on the table for Benjamin Elliott. Let's go back into the courtroom. Next up on the witness stand, we heard from him during the trial. It's the defendant's father, Michael Elliott.
You're Ben's dad?
Yes.
I want to talk about some reactions Ben has had since his arrest in this case, okay? First of all, it was under my instruction, Ben not talk to you about what happened, correct?
Yes.
All right. With those instructions,
So the defense attorney is asking the dad questions right now.
Ben, how did it weigh on you and him, y'all's relationship?
It was extremely difficult and frustrating not to be able to talk about the events of that night.
How has it been for him, his reaction that you observed?
He has been frustrated, he's been angry, he's been incredibly sad, he's broken down literally on the floor screaming. Just, yeah, he is having an incredibly difficult time dealing with that.
The morning that you picked Ben up from jail, do you remember around what time it was? What time of the year?
I don't remember what time it was. I mean, it was shortly after his arrest. So as far as time of day, it was early morning. So, but not the next morning. I don't remember how many days passed between the arrest and when we picked him up.
Tell the judge about the car ride home.
I met him, my wife and daughter, Elizabeth, were in the car waiting for us. I met him out in front of the building and brought him to the car. And during the drive, when I began to drive home, I was asking him questions and he wasn't answering them or answering them with only single.
And I'm just watching Benjamin as his dad is talking. I do hope because he will be able to get out of jail. He's in jail in Texas. He'll be incarcerated in Texas. He's going to serve, he's been sentenced to 15 years. I don't know in Texas at what point he might be eligible for probation, but I do hope that he does some type of program if he does want access, if he is able to get access to any therapy or anything like that. They might automatically put him on some type of watch because he was just convicted. Was that Monday? It was just recent. He was just convicted. I want to say it might have been Monday, and then he was sentenced today.
Sort of soft words, and I finally ended up pulling the car over and walking around him, and I put my hands on both sides of his face and looked in his eyes, and I said, "Hi," and he seemed to kind of recognize me and then say hi back, and then he was able to talk a little more about how he was doing, and he is having difficulty.
The argument was made that your son has shown no remorse. How would you answer that argument?
That is stunningly untrue. I don't think anyone in this room could disprove that in talking to him in 10 minutes, maybe 5.
Tell the judge your last memories of your daughter, and what those were.
This is probably going to be hard, so we're just going to breathe.
I remember that morning, my wife and she had gone to get us kolaches at the restaurant. Megan liked to pick out kolaches for everybody and bring them home. She woke up earlier than most of us, and my wife also wakes up earlier, so they like to do that on Sundays. And that's what they had done. And I remember Ben and I playing a game. I remember Megan and Kat watching a television show, a cooking television show. Megan loved the cooking shows, especially the ones with kids in them. I remember that. Unless you make me, I don't want to talk about that night with Megan again.
And so the father did testify in the trial. The father and the mother and the other sister also testified. He also had a friend that testified about, I think for the defense, about his sleepwalking.
Now, the court has a decision on punishment to make in this case. Tell the judge, knowing your daughter, how you think she would want this to play out.
She would want lenience. She would want compassion for Ben. Yeah. She would want compassion for Ben. I don't want to reiterate what Martha said, but yeah, she would be very angry at this.
Well, let me ask you. How would you respond to the accusation that we don't know what goes beyond closed doors at your home?
I don't know. I would think that there would be, I mean, if you're talking about some of the really horrible things that go on behind closed doors, I would think that there's not just no evidence of that, but that the prosecution has enough evidence to say that that's not happening. I don't know where the accusations come
Judge,
from.
I'm going to object to narrative at this point.
Question answered, please.
Okay, if you mentioned that the prosecution had evidence, what do you mean by that?
And I'm going to object as improper at this time, Judge.
Mr. Rooker.
Judge, this was raised in closing argument. It goes towards any guilt decision you're gonna have to make is an allegation not only of the crime, but ancillary matters going on at the home. That was brought before the jury and it's on the record, it's before this court.
What I do know is that it was alluded to, but I saw no evidence of it, like zero evidence, so I don't know how deeper you want to go to, but that's not.
Y'all know I'm easily distractible. I love the judge's scarf. The judge's scarf is absolutely amazing. He has on like a nice suit. Texas. They don't do like robes. They do he has on a suit with a scarf. Get it? Sorry.
It's not in my thinking process because there is no evidence. We're a court of law. I mean, I'll be very frank. We're a court of law. I go by evidence. I saw no evidence, and I know the state, they're very good at finding evidence, so it's not in my factors, but you could ask one more question and move on because it's not in my thinking pattern.
Appreciate that, Judge. Mr. Elliott, from what you observed, based on all these investigators, all these efforts by the district attorney's office, what efforts were made to find out if things were troubling Megan, between Megan and Ben?
I don't know of any efforts, but I wasn't able to be here for a lot of the trial. I'm not sure what evidence was presented, but I don't know of any attempt to contact us anyway and find out. They had all of Megan's phone. I would assume if there was a problem that there would be some reference to it in there.
I'll pass it to you. Sorry, one second.
And I forgot to mention, it looks like after he did get some type of mental health treatment after this incident, but because that's mentioned over on the side.
My boss has a question for me.
But they never claimed that he was insane at the time. So they didn't claim that there was any mental health condition that triggered this. They said it was a sleep issue. Like they blamed it on a sleep disorder.
Brought this up in trial briefly, but you mentioned Ben had been sleeping with an alarm on his door.
Yes.
Tell the judge about that.
When we first got home, Benjamin has an alarm on his door that at his insistence that we ordered.
Oh, so I think after the incident, it sounds like they put an alarm on his door. Because if they're saying he accidentally did this, that he might do something like this in the middle of the night. So it sounds like he had an alarm where anytime he opened the door, the rest of the house would be notified if he came out of his room in the middle of the night. I've worked with families where we've done this. If we were reintegrating a child into the home that was aggressive or that had received treatment for some type of inappropriate behavior. And so that's probably why they put the alarm on his door. Okay.
It made him feel safe to have an alarm on his door that would wake him up if he was walking in his sleep and opened his door. It's an alarm that he sets with either a code or disarms with a code or uses a key fob. We have one key fob by his bedside table and another one mounted on.
And he could disarm it though? Okay. So the way that I've always done the alarm, the individual that had the alarm had no control over it. That's how I've always done it. So I guess if he was awake, that he could turn it off. But if he was asleep, that it would be on. Okay.
on the wall outside. So the idea is he sets the alarm, and then if he wakes up in the night and opens his door without disarming it, that the alarm will go off.
And whose idea was that?
That was Benjamin's idea. Before that, we were sleeping, I was actually sleeping in a chair with the back against the door of the bedroom that he and my wife and I were sharing.
Did Benjamin express fear to you about going to bed?
Yes.
That's what this judge.
Mr. Elliott, I don't want to belabor the point, but you were interviewed by the Harris County Sheriff's Homicide Division,
Yes.
and they did ask you for any direction or understanding of Benjamin's sleep disorders or mental health issues at that time.
Yes.
And they did ask you to provide them with any information that you knew.
That I knew at
Right.
the time.
Correct.
Yes.
So like staying up and playing on his computer would have been something that you probably should have told them.
I mean, I don't see staying up and late and playing on a computer as unusual at all for a 16 or 17-year-old boy. I'm not sure what your experience is. It hasn't been mine.
Okay, but your experience has been that since Benjamin put an alarm on his door, he has or hasn't slept well.
It's not the alarm that does anything with sleeping. The main thing has been the CPAP machine that has allowed him to sleep.
So I guess he was diagnosed with the sleep apnea then, because CPAP is normally for sleep apnea. Once again, that normally doesn't. I'll have to look. I'll have to Google sleep apnea and sleepwalking.
No further questions, Judge.
Further-
No, sir.
May this witness be excused
Yes, Your Honor.
by the state as well?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, that's it for Dad Mom's Next. We'll get a break, get you back into the courtroom. A reminder, if you want to watch the Karen Reed hearing, go to courttv.com. It's streaming there. Stay with us.
We're gonna skip whatever. They're okay. We're gonna get back into their coverage of
Hey.
sentencing.
What do you,
I'm gonna skip the commentary. Okay. Then they went back to his mother.
Your family and your husband speak, but tell the judge in your own words who Megan was.
Megan was amazing. Megan had difficulty making friends sometimes. She was starting to come into her own and had several online friends that she felt more comfortable talking to than friends at school in real life. She was an artist, and her art helped her better express herself. She wrote poetry. She wrote lots of poetry, actually, about not feeling accepted by peers. And she was a loving sister, a beautiful daughter.
Okay. Tell the judge about Ben.
Ben is an amazing person. He is kind. He is helpful. He looks out for people. He, when we were leaving the courthouse the other day, we were upset, and he stops and helps my mother with her walker, get across the street in the midst of all of this. He cared for his sister very deeply.
So somebody asked if he's emotionless or if he doesn't care. To me, he seems depressed and down. So this looks like hopelessness to me. Does that make he might be kind of disconnected from everything that's happening, and he might be preparing himself to have to go to jail. And this might have been after his first night in jail, because I believe the verdict was on Monday. No, yeah, the verdict was on Monday, and his first night since 2021, since the incident, because he was out on bond. But after he was convicted, he was taken into custody, and so yeah. Some people are seeing possibly disinterested, but he seems disconnected to me. That's how it seems to me. He's not really showing, like, he's not crying. He's not really showing emotion. I've seen defendants cry at this stage, but it seemed like they were more crying for themselves and crying about the consequence and crying about what was coming. But yeah, this was sad. He is currently 20, around 21, because he was 17 in 2021. And so I tried to do some math in my head, which can't always trust that. So I believe he's in his early 20s now. All right. Yes. Disengaged, disconnected. That's what I'm seeing. All right. And the sister was on the autism spectrum. That came out. I don't know if the prosecution brought it up, or I don't know how that came up, but I have heard that diagnosis come up for her. And that was likely part of the difficulty connecting with others, connecting with peers. Yeah.
Has he shown remorse over the death of his sister?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell the judge about that.
He has multiple times just broken down and cried on my shoulder, or he just, it's frustrating because we weren't allowed to talk about details of the
I don't know why they've zoomed in so much. Like, this is, but I think I think it's just cut weird right now.
case. But on the way home, Michael mentioned a little bit about how he stopped the car, and then the car ride on the way home, he just sat in the back seat and just over and I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He's in the house. We've got pictures. We've got their graduation pictures that were taken that summer before their senior year. And he'll stop when he's walking down the hallway. And Megan had a thing she did where she would boop your snoot. That's goofy, and he'll stop and boop her snoot and just say, I love you, and I'm sorry. And he has trouble sleeping at night. He's still scared to go to bed at night.
Okay.
I think this might be where the judge is about to sentence. We'll see.
When assessing punishment, I look at many factors that help guide me. This is a wide range of punishment, 5 years, 99 years, or life. I look at the criminal history of the defendant. I look at similar cases with fact patterns and what juries have decided, and there's none. I mean, we could all agree on that. And I've looked. I look at what the jury has told me, and defense, they agree with your defense. I'm sorry, they didn't. However, unsolicited, they told me to be lenient.
So the jury did not believe that he was completely disconnected and asleep and had no idea what he was doing. I want to make myself big for that part. So the jury did not believe that he was sleepwalking and this was completely an accident. But it does sound like the jury did want the judge to be lenient with him for some reason. That something probably came up in the case or came up in the trial where the jury did ask for the judge to be lenient. All right, we're gonna hop back in.
With Mr. Elliott, I will tell you that. And I've told y'all that when I spoke with them, I didn't ask, they tell me. I look at cases I've tried as a prosecutor and defense attorney, try to look at similarities to see what I think is just. I look at mitigation in this case, and there's mitigation. I mean, there's no criminal history. He seems to be portrayed as a nice person. I can't argue with that. I look at aggravated circumstances, the complaining witness. If she was young, she didn't deserve what happened. I look at how the defendant behaved on bond. I sit there, and I've told everyone before, I see what people do, not what they say, and I just watch them, and just to see what they're going to do. And he's behaved. We can't argue with that. I think about the victim. I have. I do. I will. I have. I think about the victim's family, which is also his family. I think about the defendant's age. I think about rehabilitation and punishment. And I think about what I think is just and what I can live with. Because at the bottom line is I have to be able to live with whatever sentence I give. And I take that very seriously. Stand up, Mr. Elliott. Jury finding you guilty of the offense of murder. Your range of punishment is from 5 years to 99. I sentence you to 15 years in prison. At this time, you will go with the Sheriff's Department, where your sentence will be fulfilled in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And you'll get the credit that you have received while out on bond. If you served any jail time, you'll receive that credit as well. Is there any legal reason why this court should not give you that punishment at this time? Any legal reason?
All right. Y'all ask great questions. And so there was a question of, was it anger towards his sister? And that's where it seems like something happened. And I don't know that we'll ever know exactly what happened, because he's saying he doesn't remember. And there was no evidence that something happened. Like, the family didn't hear some big argument between the two of them. It didn't sound like they had a horrible day that day, or anything like that. I don't know that we'll ever know exactly what happened, but the jury did not buy the defense that he was sleepwalking and had no idea what he was doing. All right. Um, I'll have to look that up. I'm not sure if there's ever been someone who's successfully been able to use the defense that they were sleepwalking. Um, uh, I've had movement in my dreams. When I was pregnant, I I had a weird dream. I had something weird happened, and because my husband was like, because I was just walking, and and I was clearly asleep, and my husband was like, "What are you doing?" And I woke up, and I kind of, I don't, for some reason I was just like, "I'm going to the bathroom," but that wasn't why I got out of bed. That I just woke up in the middle of the room and was like, "Oh, I guess I'll go to the bathroom." But he had no history of violence that we're aware of, and and I think there would have been some evidence with the autopsy if there had been any inappropriate behavior between. So, to my knowledge, nothing came in that there was anything inappropriate between him and his twin. Um, there was no evidence, to my knowledge, that he was on any substances, because they would have said it. There was no evidence that there were any substances, and um, yeah. Ella, you're so correct. Elia or Elia, I'm not sure which one it is. Apologize if I said that wrong. Good day. Sarah Boone has ruined Good Day and doing puzzles and all of that. Because I probably did say it seemed like they were having a good day, and a Sarah Boone good day is not. The neighbors can hear the argument and everything that she conveniently forgets. But I thought the sleepwalking aspect was unique to this case. I hadn't covered something like that here on my channel before. Um, the next case that will likely, I'll just keep an eye on court cases that are going on out there. If there is a case that you all would like for me to cover, please let me know. I am keeping an eye on that case out in California, where the judge was. The allegation is that he was under the influence of alcohol, and he made a finger gun like gesture to his wife, and she said, "Go on ahead and do it already." And he he did it. And I believe the defense is going to try to use that he was under the influence of alcohol to try to lower it from first degree to manslaughter. Like, I think that's what the defense is going to try to do. I thought Sarah Boone could have tried to do that, that she was so intoxicated that she did not have the like forethought, like she passed out and but like she didn't intend for him to die. I thought that she could have used some type of I blacked out to that she had no memory, no recollection, but I think she didn't want to be portrayed as an alcoholic. And she chose to go self-defense, and that did not work for her. So, Sarah, she's incapable of getting drunk. She needs to be about her wits. Compus mentis, comp mentis, whatever that word is. I'm so glad that we were able to chat. And then gossip, rumor, and innuendo. If you're still here, if you ever want to collaborate, let me know. My DMs are always open on Instagram. And I've seen some collaborations with you and Tanika, and absolutely love those. And so if you ever wanted to collaborate, let me know. I saw your coverage of the juror interview from one of the last cases, and so make sure to check out her channel if you haven't. But I appreciate you all. We're gonna head out a little early today, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.